You're listening to the Business Brain Food Podcast. This is episode 138.
Welcome to the podcast that gives you direct access to the world's leading business building experts. Head to maxmyprofit.com.au to catch up on past episodes, download your free business growth tools, and access show notes for every single episode. Now here's your host, Ben Futrell.
Welcome back to another episode of Business Brain Fit. This, my friend, is the podcast that is 157.5% dedicated to taking you and your business to the next level. And you know what the good news is? Doesn't matter whether you're brand new to this business thing, maybe you're just scratching that entrepreneurial itch, or you've been in business for a long, long time. Either way, there's always, and I mean always, something you can do to take your business to the next level. And today is going to be absolutely no different. I've got Roberta Matuson coming on the show, and she'll be talking about how to attract the right talent in your business and keep the talent you've got. The ones that you want to keep, of course, but also getting rid of the ones you don't want to keep. We'll get to that shortly. Now, if you're a first-time listener, welcome to the Business Brain Food Podcast, and thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you go back and listen to some of the past episodes. There's some real gold nuggets in the last 137 episodes. This one's going to be great as well. So stick around, listen to this, and then go back and listen to that one. If you're a long-time listener, welcome back. Welcome back. Thanks so much for tuning in each and every week. Now, if you are enjoying the podcast, please jump into the iTunes store, leave an honest review or rating. I'd love to hear your feedback. It also helps when people come across the podcast when they're deciding whether or not to listen to the show. So if you can jump into the iTunes store, leave an honest review or rating, that'd be fantastic. I think you can just do it on your iTunes app now on your phone. Correct me if I'm wrong, but anyway, just see if you can do that for me. That would be much appreciated. Now, before we do get stuck into the interview with Roberta today, which I know you're going to love, because I know every single business owner is challenged with recruiting, attracting the right talent and keeping their talent happy. So we're going to talk a lot about that today with Roberta. Before we do that, I wanted to just have a quick chat with you about some of the things that I've got available. If you're in business and you're looking for ways to increase your sales, your lead generation, you want to do better systems, you want to just make your business work more efficiently so it relies less on you. I've got a huge amount of different tools, articles, etc. over at maxmyprofit.com.au. So that's maxmyprofit.com.au. You head over there and there's a whole bunch of freebies you can download. A lot of it you don't have to put any details in to access, which is my library. If you click on the library, you can read all the articles. I write articles regularly. A lot of those are very valuable for business owners. I would say all of them, but some people would argue. The other thing you can grab there is my ebook. You can download the entire ebook for free. It's called Planning Your Path to Business Success, and you can grab that for free at maxmyprofit.com.au. All right, let's get stuck into today's episode. We've got Roberta Matuson coming on. Now, Roberta runs a company called Matuson Consulting, and in the past has helped some of the leaders in world-class companies. I'm talking world-class, like General Motors, Microsoft, and also a company that I can fall in love with easily, which is Boston Beer Company. I like beer, by the way. And she's helped those achieve dramatic growth and market leadership through the maximization of talent, which, and I like the way that Roberta thinks, because it's not just about recruiting, it's about keeping the people that you've got happy as well and maximising the return on investment you get out. Now, she's known globally as the talent maximizer and as an executive advisor who has personal experience in recruitment and running her own businesses. So it's really good to know that that Roberta walks the walk, doesn't just talk the talk, but walks the walk. And she's the person that top employment sites in the US like Monster and global retail giants Staples turn to for advice on talent. She's also written a couple of books. So she's authored 2 international bestsellers. One was Suddenly in Charge, Managing Up, Managing Down, Succeeding All Round, which actually was in the Washington Post top 5 business books, which is pretty cool. And her latest book, which is called The Magnetic Leader, How Irresistible Leaders Attract Employees, Customers, and Profits. That apparently is also on Audible, which is my favourite way to consume a book. So I'll be, after this podcast interview, I'll be downloading that and having a bit of a listen. The other thing, if you just Google Roberta's name, she's a blogger for Forbes and Glassdoor, and you'll find a lot of her articles online. Very good stuff that you can go and find, and lots of great stuff. But here, for the next half an hour or so, you've got Roberta in your ears. So don't go anywhere. Grab a pen, grab a piece of paper, because get ready to take lots of notes. I dig deep, and I asked Roberta to share some of her greatest tips, the biggest mistakes business owners are making, and the quickest, most efficient way you can use systems in your business to recruit so it takes less of your time. So without any further delay, let's get Roberta onto the Business Brain Food podcast.
Business Brain Food.
So finding the right talent in your business is always one of the challenges that I hear from so many business owners. So it is with great pleasure that I have Roberta on the Business Brain Food podcast today. Welcome to the Business Brain Food podcast, Roberta.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
Hey, the pleasure is all mine, and the listeners are going to love this because I know we don't get too many people that are experts in recruitment and talent acquisition, so I'm really looking forward to this. But before we do that, you're going to get asked the same question I ask every single guest, and you're not going to escape this question, and that is for you to share something quirky about yourself.
It's time for something quirky. And now, something quirky.
Well, that's the question that I have never been asked. So my response to that question would be, a number of years ago, I quit what most people thought was a really great job to travel around the world by myself for a year.
Wow, okay. So you didn't take anybody with you. You decided to do it on your own. Do you like spending time with yourself?
I do.
Yeah, I think that's quirky in itself because not a lot of people do that. Tell us a bit about what were the key things that you got out of that year? Did you love it? Were you regretting you didn't take someone with you, or how did that end up for you?
Oh, I loved it. My biggest takeaway was that no matter where you go, you bring yourself with you. So especially if you're traveling alone, you better like yourself because you're going to be spending a lot of time with yourself.
Yeah, if you don't like yourself, you're in trouble. Yeah, I'm quite alone myself, so I do get that. But I don't know if I could do a year. I just don't know if I could unplug from my life for a year to go and do something completely different. I suppose it is your life, but you know, there's a lot of things I do that I love. So my hat's off to you, and that is a little quirky. I don't know too many people that have done that. Did you travel around the entire world, or did you just focus on an area? I
traveled around the entire world.
Wow!
And I come back. My ticket expired at midnight. And I flew into JFK at 10:59 p.m.
Nice stuff. Well, it sounds good. And we could talk about that. I could probably do a whole hour just quizzing you on that because I'm interested in that. I just finished watching a series by a fellow called Lyndon Poskett, who's a motorcycle racer. He's running the Dakar Rally and the Bajar Rally and all of these on his dirt bike. And he's been riding around the world on his motorbike. And I think they're up to Series 7 or something. They're still filming it. He's in Australia. Where he's left off, he's in Australia, which is obviously very interesting. But just watching how all the different countries, the different cultures, how people welcomed him into their homes and all sorts of stuff. It was pretty phenomenal to watch. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to speak to somebody about that. But we don't have time for that, unfortunately.
We'll do that next time.
We'll do that next time. What I'm interested in finding out, I know the listeners are going to love hearing about, is the whole talent acquisition stuff. Now, you've actually, you're being coined as the talent maximizer. So I'm interested to understand, what does the talent maximizer mean? And tell me a bit about how you got into that space of finding the right talent.
Well, I got into that space because early on in my career, when I was 24 years old, I was promoted into the executive suite. And, when you're 24, you think you know everything. And I probably did a really great job of repelling a lot of talent. And, as you mature and as I took that year off and I traveled, I realized that if I ever went back into management, that I vowed to make sure that people did not get treated the way I treated my people. And so a lot of the lessons I learned were, from watching what people did and then just saying, oh my gosh, I'm never going to do that. And then looking at my own behaviors and saying, wow, I can't believe I did that. And, I shouldn't be surprised by the results.
Yeah. So what do you think, from your history, is it more about the leader you are or manager? I mean, you mentioned that yourself there, you're 24 and you're everything. And I think a lot of young people are in that space. So do you think it's more, getting the right talent, is it more about being the right leader, or is it more about having the systems and processes to find the right people, or is it a combination?
Well, it's absolutely a combination. And it's interesting because the second book that I wrote is called Talent Magnetism. And that's how to build a workplace that attracts and keeps the best. And when I write books, I really don't read them until I'm done writing them. And after I read the book, I had this aha moment, and I thought to myself, my goodness, it's all about the leader. And so then I wrote The Magnetic Leader. That's my newest book, because I really do believe that magnetic leaders can attract employees, customers, and profits.
Yeah, and you see companies put a lot of time and effort and money into their marketing to attract customers, but you don't seem putting the same effort into attracting talent. Do you think that's a mistake from a business point of view?
Absolutely, because I don't know of any companies that can operate without people. I mean, maybe if you work for yourself, you don't have people, but there are very few companies, I think, that have products and services out there that don't have some people doing the work.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you mentioned this new book of yours, Magnetic Leadership, about magnetic leadership. Can you give us an idea of what you mean by that? Is it, because I'm imagining a boss dressed in a big magnet, but I'm gathering that's not what it is.
It is the cover. It's really about, if you think about it, if you've been fortunate enough in your career, you may have had a leader somewhere along the way that when they moved to another company, you followed them. Or you picked up the phone and said, hey, what's going on? What's happening? Got any jobs? Because they're so magnetic. And so I believe that you can become a magnetic leader if you're willing to do the work.
So tell me, what are the traits of a magnetic leader? How do I become a magnetic leader?
Well, first of all, you have to be a strong communicator, because so often in leadership, we find people, they don't communicate. And so employees are supposed to know by osmosis what their bosses really want. Another key trait is authenticity. And I think many of us have worked for bosses who were mini versions of their bosses. And, we kind of looked at them and went, what? They're not very authentic. So, there are a bunch of other traits, but if I tell you all of them, then you won't read the book. So.
I'm sure the book is still a worthy read.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And do you think that, things have changed over time? I mean, we're looking at different generations now, and they respond in different ways from recruitment point of view. What sort of changes have you seen over the years in the way people now do get hired? Is there a huge change? I mean, technology's come into play, and there must be, millennials want different things, don't they?
Well, I see that, all this technology is really preventing people from getting to us. So with all these applicant tracking systems and companies using, these searches, and, so many great people are getting missed. And it's just crazy. I hear people tell me, it's crazy to me, because I have, I know, people looking for jobs, and they tell me they can't find work, even though in many parts of the world, there's never been a better time to look for work because of the labor market. And then I have employers tell me they can't find talent. So, there's a mismatch here.
Yeah, and I don't know what it's like in America at the moment, but in Australia here right now, one of the challenges we're finding business owners is finding tradespeople. So people that carpenters or builders or plumbers or electricians, because people aren't leaving school and going and doing a trade. Is that happening in the US?
It is, and it's interesting you should mention that, because one of your mates over in Australia, who I've known for years, reached out to me because his company is looking to hire, and was seeking my advice and my help in how to go about recruiting these people internationally to bring them into Australia.
Yeah, and you're finding, when you say internationally, you're finding that that's working for companies in Australia, right? In any country?
Well, they're in the process of looking at it. They haven't implemented anything yet. But, the whole premise, as you know, we have a new president. There's a lot of unrest. And the idea being, this might be a great time for people who swore if this president got into office that they would leave the country. His idea was, well, let's give them a great opportunity. And I thought it was an awesome idea. And so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, never. We won't go into politics, but I've never seen one man polarize so many people. But there you go.
Yeah, we'll save that one for another podcast.
Yeah, definitely. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, because it's there'll be a point of no return, I think. So I think with the challenge that people are having, do businesses need to get more creative with their recruitment process?
Well, they need to do a number of things. They definitely need to get more creative. They need to stop delegating this role to HR. You've got, maybe 3 people in HR and you've got, 50, 100, 200 job openings, and you've got hiring managers who think it's not their job to hire. And so at this stage of the game, you need all hands on deck. And so companies need to turn their teams into recruiting machines.
And so what do you mean by that? You get the individual team members involved in spreading the word? Is that what or?
Involved in spreading the word. When I do that for my clients, I teach those hiring managers how to assess candidates, how to interview them. So, so many people go through interviews and they don't know why they're asking the questions. And so they're merely going through this checklist. And so I teach them what's underneath those questions so that they can assess whether or not the person really is who he or she says they are. And then it's also deploying all your resources and, making sure that you're on college campuses and that you're at recruitment fairs. Like, it's really having a whole strategy rather than just throwing darts and hoping and praying that you hit a target.
Yeah, it goes back to my earlier comment that, businesses put a lot of effort sometimes into their marketing plans. They need to put the same effort into their recruitment plans, don't they?
I think right now they probably have to put more into their recruitment plans. And, because I know I have clients that have come to me because they can't fulfill their sales because they don't have the people.
Yeah, which is interesting because salespeople is the other area that is difficult to find and hire people. And I don't know why that is, but do you find that companies in the US are having problems finding salespeople?
Well, the 3 toughest jobs to fill in the U.S. are sales, in no particular order, sales, IT positions, and finance accounting people. Really, really short supply. And, as far as sales go, I think that if you, look at life, I don't have any friends whose kids are saying, when I grow up, I want to be in sales. It's just, it's not something you think about. You either fall into it or maybe you have a parent who was in sales. But very few universities even have courses in sales or even a major. And so I think we've got this huge shortage.
And it's a shame because sales is such an integral part of life and being successful, isn't it? Being able to persuade somebody or,
make a heck of a lot of money if you're good.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, one of the things I've heard from people that do talent acquisition is that you shouldn't put an ad in the paper and take the unemployed people that are out of a job. You should go and headhunt. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's a crock.
Okay, cool. Yeah, tell me why that is.
And I don't mean crocodile. Listen, there's have you ever lost your job?
Me? No. I've never had a job, so.
Okay. Do you know people that have lost their jobs?
Of course I do, yes.
And were they damaged? I mean, were they damaged people, or did they lose it due to circumstances? Maybe it wasn't the right match. Maybe they had to relocate because of a spouse. Maybe they were caring for an ailing family member. Maybe the company did a massive layoff, right? Yeah. And I think what ends up happening is that people don't understand that unemployment is a condition. It is not a disease. And so I would argue the point that, it doesn't matter to me if someone's not working, if they're the right fit, if they're, what I'm looking for. Heck yeah, I'm going to give them an opportunity.
Yeah, great stuff. It's good to get some clarity around that because I have heard that from different sources that's one of the methods. And with LinkedIn these days being such a powerful platform, recruiters are using that as a way to target people that are in roles and then, headhunt them. As a business owner, it is a fear, right, that your team, when you've got a good team, that they are going to be headhunted. How do you make sure that once you've got your team that you do keep them?
Well, if you treat them well and if you treat them the way you'd like to be treated and you have that magnetism, you'll keep them. And then you also have to understand that there will come a time when, they won't be with you. So you have to prepare for that. But it's interesting that you mentioned LinkedIn because I'm one of their lynda.com LinkedIn authors. And so, LinkedIn is just taking over the world when it's coming to positioning themselves as being the source for finding and retaining and nurturing talent. It's pretty amazing what they're doing there.
Yeah, and so what are some of the ways that people are using LinkedIn that's working well to recruit talent at the moment?
Well, they are blogging because you can now blog on LinkedIn and you can talk about, some of the cool things your company's doing, and you can build a following. And then when you have a job opening, people will reach out to you and say, hey, you look like a really great organization to work for. Do you have anything? And the thing that's going on with LinkedIn is that, in the old days, you'd have to actually be able to find, like, what is the person's extension? What's their email? And now we're slicing right through that. We're going direct.
Yeah, because you can do that through the LinkedIn platform, can't you, with the, what do they call it, the in-mail?
Yes, you can.
And is there advertising on LinkedIn that is effective, or is it still best to do it organically?
I think you've got to use everything. I think if you have the money for ads, use them. I think you've got to use all the resources, especially if your economy is like ours, where, our unemployment in some places is 3.1%.
Yeah, and I can imagine. I can imagine that there's, every country's got unemployment, haven't they?
Yes, but that's so low. I mean, when I came out of school, it was like 12%. Like, you couldn't get a job. Now it's like, well, you can have 10 jobs.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, is that there's things everywhere. I think the other thing that's happening as well is that, and I see this a lot. I don't know if you see this in the US. I'm sure you do, because Uber was born there before here. But we've got, you jump into an Uber these days, and there are people that have left their job because they weren't happy or the hours didn't suit them and they wanted that flexibility. So there's all these opportunities now where people can easily do something for themselves, because there's all these, technology has brought all these opportunities to them.
Absolutely. And you can work from home, and, you've just got so many more choices. It used to be, if you lived in a small town, you could only work for one or two employers, but now you can work globally.
Yeah, and these online sites where people can be outsourced, and there's all sorts of things that can go on. So it's definitely changing the way that things happen. Now, when it comes to hiring, I'm interested to hear about your process, because I know everybody I ever speak to about recruitment has a different way of recruiting a person, and I don't think it's the done thing just to have one interview and then make a decision from that one interview. But that's how most business owners do it. Have you got a system or a way of recruiting that works better than that?
Well, first of all, I always try to suggest to my clients, who are usually the CEO or presidents or business owners, anytime you can get somebody through a referral, you're going to be that much further ahead. And again, going back to LinkedIn, I'm helping a client right now, the president of this company, hire his first VP of HR. And wouldn't you know it, we were getting resumes from people, and I happened to know, because I went onto LinkedIn, I'm like, oh my gosh, they're like connected to people I know. And I went to those people, I'm like, well, what do you think about so-and-so? Because she looks really good. And my contact said, no way, stay away. So it's fascinating how you can check people out through the back door and not waste time on candidates who are not the right fit for what you want.
Yeah, and the internet's making that easy. I mean, you look at when you go to you go to a restaurant now, you can jump online and look at the reviews. My only hesitation with that, though, is that, even that type of thing, you look at the reviews and you see, a restaurant might have 65 stars and 10 1 stars. It doesn't mean that they're all correct, and
yes. But I had the advantage, because I went onto LinkedIn and saw that somebody that I knew well knew this woman used to work for him. I was able to call him and say, what do you think of her? And because he knew me, he said, you do not want to hire her. And so, again, prior to that, I would not have known that he knew her, or I might not have thought about that. But, so it's just another way that your listeners can use their networks and see if somebody they know is connected to someone, so that they can check them out and not waste time on a candidate that's not going to probably work out.
Yeah, it's a great tip. Before you hire somebody, jump onto LinkedIn and see who you're connected with that knows them, because that's easy to do, isn't it?
As far as I'm concerned, it is.
And what about things like checking their personal online profiles, like with Facebook and Instagram, and see what they get up to? Is that something that you would say is important, or it could be dangerous to do? Or?
Well, I think it depends on the job. I mean, look, if I'm hiring, a weight person, I'm not really going to be all that concerned that, they're out drinking with their buddies. But if I'm hiring someone who's going to be the front line of my organization, they're going to be my PR rep, I might really want to know, well, what's their reputation?
Yeah, so then you can go and dig deeper and find, because if that makes sense. Absolutely, that makes sense. And so, what other steps do you think are important? So looking at their online presence and talking to people that may know them that aren't going to be their references, if you like, on their resume, because they're always going to be good references. What other steps can someone take as a business owner to make that process more, more reliable, more guaranteed to get somebody better?
I think that the biggest thing that your listeners can do is once they put their foot on the accelerator, they cannot let up. And what winds up happening is I see clients all the time come out of the gate really strong. They're excited. They're going to get their postings up. And then the resumes come in and they just don't get around to them. And then it's weeks. And then by the time they call these people, the good ones, have jobs. They've been hired. And so once you start, you really have to be committed to seeing it through to the end.
Yeah, okay. So really put the time aside to focus on the recruitment. So besides, keeping the momentum, doing the references, is there anything else that should you do more than one interview? Should you interview them with other key personnel from in your team? Should you get them to do something like a test or, I don't know, practical, putting something together? What other things do you think that can make the recruitment process a little bit more predictable for business owners?
So much of it depends on what position you're recruiting for. So I'll give you an example. Many years ago, I was being recruited for a position that was a recruiter inside a company. And as part of that process, my boss took me out to lunch at a very nice restaurant. And my soon-to-be boss, she did offer me the job. And then after, she told me that she always takes recruiters to lunch because she wants to, first of all, when we're recruiting, a lot of times we're meeting people at lunch. So she wanted to make sure that we had table manners, that we were respectful to the wait people, the coat check gal, so it depends on what you're recruiting for. So if it's a salesperson and eventually they're going to be taking your clients out for dinner or whatever, you want to make sure ahead of time that you're not going to get this call from your client saying you're not serious about this person, are you? And the other thing is you want to always be in recruiting mode, always. So if you do go out to a great restaurant and you get exceptional service, you want to say to that person, I might have some job opportunities if you're ever interested. I'd love to talk to you more. And you'd be surprised. A lot of people in these jobs in the service industry, a lot of them are the underemployed. And they're in these jobs because they have student loans to pay. They have to support, their parents, whatever. And so this isn't what I call their quote unquote real job. And so if you're getting great service from them, obviously their customer service skills are very transferable.
Yeah, that's a good tip because quite often the people are doing those jobs as a stepping stone as well, aren't they?
Well, I don't know anyone that went to college to be a barista, but maybe they do in Australia. I don't think so.
No, I don't know that. I mean, there are some people that are passionate about it that I think would do it ongoing, but it'd be a very small percentage. I think most people are doing it as a stepping stone. What are some of the mistakes you've seen companies make or leaders make when they're recruiting?
Well, I think it goes back to speed. They're not moving fast enough, and it's killing them. Because when you don't move fast enough and then you make an offer and somebody has another offer that they've accepted, then you've just, wasted, 3-4 weeks. And when you could have had them. Yeah.
Now, that would be one of the keys, I think, to grabbing good talent before somebody else does. One of the challenges a lot of smaller businesses have is convincing people to work for them when they're also getting pitched to by larger organisations that can be seen, rightly or wrongly, to have more, stability or long-term, guaranteed roles. What are your advice to small business owners that are trying to attract talent that they could be competing with bigger companies?
Well, you got to go with what you got. And when I look at a small company, it's like, the owner's actually going to know my name. How about that? He or she's actually going to probably care about my family. They're going to know what I'm really good at. When there's an opportunity, they're going to know me rather than, oh, well, you're number, 275 out of 8,010 employees, where nobody knows your name. So I think you really have to hone in on the benefits of working for a smaller employer. And there are many, but you've got to sell with what you've got.
Yes, it's just a matter of sitting down and working, okay, because there are benefits, of course, to working inside a smaller business. It's just a matter of understanding what they are and not feeling, I guess, intimidated by the larger businesses then.
Well, when you work in a smaller business, you get to wear many hats, and that's a great advantage. You get to do a lot of different things. When you're in a larger business, you usually get to do one thing. And especially today's younger people, they're in growth mode. They want to just they're like sponges. They just want to do like everything. And so when you're a small business owner, you can give them those opportunities.
Yeah, no, I know, because I had, I've had a couple of guests on that have spoke about managing millennials. It's a very different process. So I'm guessing that in the marketing side or the recruitment part, if you're looking for the younger people, is making sure that it's honed into what they're going to be attracted to.
Yeah, and then I would also challenge you in that, maybe you don't need to look for the younger people. I mean, everybody wants the young, shiny penny, but there are a lot of mature workers out there that, they're not going to be out late partying on, Sunday night. So they're going to come into work on time on Monday. You're not going to have to train them in, a lot of, social skills. They're going to be so happy to have a job. They'll be very loyal. So I would just suggest that your listeners really kind of think outside the box and stop, following the trend and instead, go in a different direction because you'll have a lot less competition there and you'll find some great talent.
Yeah, it's interesting too when you look at the stats. I think they were saying, I read something somewhere there, millennials stay in a job between 2 and 3 years is where the older generations will still, do their 10, 15, 20 years because that's just what they've grown up with.
Yeah, I don't think the older generation will stay 10 or 20 years because I don't think that, anyone will today. But I do think they'll stay a heck of a lot longer than the younger people.
Yeah. Now, one of the challenges we're seeing with small businesses is that they are, because recruitment has got more difficult, or in their mind has become harder. They're less likely to let somebody go that isn't performing because they're worried about not finding somebody to replace that person. What effects do you think that has on a business?
Oh, I think it's terrible. I think it has a huge effect. When you have people who aren't performing, the people that you do have that are there are looking around going, are you kidding me? They're working harder. They're like, I'm out of here because I didn't sign up to work on a losing team here. And so I think that can do more damage than just, letting that person go and kind of figuring out how you're going to cover that until such time as it's restaffed. But we see that here too, and it's a huge mistake.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that because that's one of the challenges. I think for a lot of small business owners, they're very busy. They're working a lot of hours, and having to put that recruitment thing into their mix of their to-do list, I think, is a scary proposition. What advice have you got for business owners to make the whole recruitment thing a bit easier? Is there a way or tips to minimise the amount of time and effort it takes?
Well, yeah. I mean, listen, once you get a process in place, it's a lot easier. It's like anything in your business. So I would find somebody who can help you put that process in place. I would also advise your listeners to consider partnering with they can get a contract recruiter if they have, a bunch of jobs they need to fill. And that's somebody who is temporarily on their payroll until such time as those jobs are filled. I would encourage them to use third-party recruiters and somebody they trust, somebody they get through a referral, because then they can focus their attention on growing and marketing and sales, while that other person is helping them fill those jobs. And yes, it's going to cost them some money, but it's going to also allow them some peace of mind.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing is sometimes if you don't have the time, this is what I tell people. I say you've got two resources you can use. One is your time, But if you don't have any time, you're going to use your money. And if you haven't got either, then you're in trouble.
Totally.
Yeah, well, we're just about out of time, but it's been good chatting to you. I think a lot of people do struggle with the whole recruitment thing, and it's interesting that it has changed over time. I think LinkedIn now is a platform that most business owners need to learn how to use and utilize to attract good talent. And the other thing is information is so easy to get out there now. So there's a lot of online blogs around recruitment. There's YouTube channels. There's podcasts. There's so many great resources out there. What are some of the resources that you could share that people could use if they want to get better at recruiting?
Well, I just, before we go there, I just want to say, as you think about this whole talent situation, because recruiting does take so much time and it is so much more challenging today, you better darn well hold on to the people that you have that are good. So I'm just going to encourage your listeners to really think about, who do I want to retain and what do I need to do today to make sure I don't lose them?
Yeah,
it's not just recruiting. That's
a great tip because, the cost of losing somebody means that then you have to recruit.
Exactly. And we're so busy like, oh, my God, I'm recruiting. It's like, well, you've got to close the back door here, people. So I've got tons of free resources on my website. It's Matuson, Matuson, consulting.com. They can follow me on Twitter at Matuson. Send me a LinkedIn invitation. Sign up and look at some of my lynda.com courses on employer branding and how to find talent.
So great. So some great links there and resources. I'll make sure they all go in the show notes. So go to businessbrainfood.com.au. It's BBF138. That's 138. And all of the links that to get a hold of Roberta will be in the show notes. I'll make sure I put those in, plus any others that we have found for contacting Roberta and downloading anything or going checking out blogs, etc. Because there's a lot of good. You've got a lot of great information. I think for business owners, they don't have to do it alone. They don't have to feel like they're alone. They can, whether it's just buying a book, enrolling in a course, like you said, a Lynda course, or hiring somebody as a contractor. There's plenty of options for people, isn't there?
Yeah, and I actually found out today that my book, The Magnetic Leader, is now on Audible. So you can, if you're a busy business owner and you like listening to books in your car as you're going from one client to another, check it out. You can go over to Audible or Amazon and grab a copy of The Magnetic Leader.
Yeah, that's my absolute favourite way of getting information now is audible.com. So I'm glad your book's there. I'll go and get it myself. I've got my membership, so I'll go and get The Magnetic Leader. Sounds like a great book. Well, once again, thanks so much for sharing your knowledge, your talent. Let's call it on the Business Brainfood podcast. I know the listeners will get a lot out of it, and it's a challenge that so many business owners have. So I'm really grateful that you spared the time for us. So thanks.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
Hey, the pleasure was all ours. All we've got left to do, Roberta, is the 60-second scramble. Are you ready for that?
I'm ready.
All right, let's start the clock. Favorite app on your phone?
Favorite app on my phone? TripIt.
TripIt. Do you have a favorite inspirational quote you could share with the listeners?
Just do it.
That's a good one. I like that. Simple but very effective. What's your biggest addiction?
Good French bread.
French bread, nice. What's your favorite drink?
Good glass of wine.
Number one tip for being more efficient?
Turn off your devices.
Yeah, too easy to get faces stuck in phones and iPads these days. What's your best way to tune out and relax?
Good wine.
Good wine seems like a theme here, starting to happen. What's the strangest thing you've ever eaten?
Oh, my. I guess octopus.
Okay. And have you got a favourite movie?
Dirty Dancing, the original.
With old Patrick Swayze. Good stuff. Well, once again, thanks for coming on the Business Brainfood podcast. It's been a blast having you on, and I know the listeners will get a lot out of that, and hopefully, as a result, they'll go and recruit some better people, but not only that, keep the ones they've got.
Great. Thank you.
Business Brain Food.
All right, so there you go. If you didn't get something out of that, then I'm a monkey's uncle. I'm sure you would have got something out of that as a business owner. Recruitment is one of the toughest things. I've got to say that, myself, I didn't expect it to be as tough as it is. Not just to find great people, but to keep great people. And it's an ongoing challenge in any business because you've got to keep people interested and keen once you've got them, but you've also then got to, have the right structure to attract people easily when you do need to find people. I just love some of the tips that Roberta shared with us there. Some of those things where always be recruiting. If you do come across people that, in a customer service role that are giving you really good service, maybe ask them if they're happy, if they're looking for other opportunities, because maybe they are. Asking friends for referrals, using your employees as a network. To see if you can recruit people. There's all sorts of different things that you can do. So lots and lots of tips in there to help you as a business owner get better results and hire your next recruit. Make sure you're also looking after the people that you've got so you don't have to do hiring too often. Otherwise, things are going to be very difficult in your business if you're going to constantly be recruiting. It's very, very difficult. All right. Well, as I said at the top of the show, if you want to go to my website, maxmyprofit.com.au, my ebook there is free for download. It's called Planning Your Path to Business Success. You'll find it on the homepage, along with a lot of other goodies there, business planning templates, tools, resources, webinars, events, and all sorts of stuff. Head across to maxmyprofit.com.au. It is the one place every business owner goes when they want to grow their business. maxmyprofit.com.au. All right, well, that's it for this week. Once again, thanks for tuning in. And as I said at the beginning of the show, if you are enjoying the podcast, please head across to the iTunes store, leave an honest review or rating. I will love you forever if you do that. And I'll even read it out on the show. So head to iTunes, leave an honest review or rating, and you'll be a superhero. Until next time, have a profitable day. Cheerio.
You can fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You can have all you ever wanted.
The Business Brain Food Podcast is brought to you by MaxMyProfit.com.au.